Hi, welcome to Dashy Notes. Today we'll be talking about Mr. Darcy. Mr. Darcy. Most people who've never read Pride and Prejudice and have never even seen the movie have heard of Mr. Darcy. After all, he's handsome, charming, and not to mention incredibly rich. Have you ever wondered, how did he get so rich? Especially because it seems like all he does is hang out with his friends and dramatically dive into ponds all day. And on that note, how did any of Jane Austen's characters get their money? They sit around the drawing room talking like all the time. And those are really great questions. And we're going to answer them right here for you on Dashy Notes. And this is where we answer your modern day questions about classic literature. Jane Austen characters love to talk about money. In fact, as soon as Mr. Darcy walks in the door, Elizabeth hears how much he's worth. £10,000. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but in modern day terms, he's worth millions. And how did he get all of that? Put simply, like most of Jane Austen's characters, he inherited it. He was born to the right family at the right time. It's a little bit oversimplifying things just to say he inherited it. So let's go over the three major ways people in Jane Austen's world got their money. The first is land holdings, the second is fortunes and investments, and the third is marriage, which Jane Austen knows so much about, clearly. So first, land holdings. Mr. Darcy inherited a lot of land. We're talking a lot. How'd he get it? Well, his family probably took it from poor people like hundreds of years ago by force, but we just sort of accept that fact in Regency England because that's normal. He owns a lot of land, and so what does he do with it? He rents it out to farmers who will pay him a lot of rent in order to live on his land and work it. So Mr. Darcy is in essence a landlord who makes a ton off of rent, which is sort of a big job to be a landlord, but that's why, if you're Mr. Darcy, you hire someone else to do that so you can go hang out with Mr. Bingley and hit up the party season in London. 2. Fortunes and investments. Mr. Darcy not only inherited a lot of land from his family, but he also inherited a lot of money. And what do you do with a lot of money in Regency England? You put it in a bank and live off the interest. Banks gave really good interest rates back then, especially if you had a huge fortune. A lot of Jane Austen's characters can even live off the interest of their fortunes, such as the Dashwoods in Sense and Sensibility. At the beginning of the book, they have a combined fortune of £10,000, and at 5% interest, which was standard at the day, they got about £500 a year to live off of, which wasn't much, but it kept them off the streets. In addition to the investments they would make in banks, often gentlemen had other business arrangements. One very controversial one at the time and now was that they owned slave plantations in the Caribbean. In Jane Austen's Mansfield Park, Sir Bertram, who is Fanny's uncle, actually even just goes to visit his slave plantation in Antigua to make sure it's doing well. Thankfully, in Pride and Prejudice, it says nothing about Darcy owning a plantation because he is too cool for that. 3. Marriage. So Mr. Darcy already has a ton of money because he owns a lot of land and he invests his money wisely. But like most people, those of Regency England always wanted more. They wanted more money, they wanted to be higher in the social status, and one way they could do this is through marriage. Often when people think about marrying for money, they think about women, which is true. During that time period, making a good match with a rich husband was the #1 way you could support yourself because there were not a lot of career opportunities available for women. So essentially, 18-year-old girls were like, hey, I have to go find a rich husband because this is the rest of my life and my children's life and everything else in the whole universe if I don't. And that was so real. But men also married for money because at this time period, families gave their daughters something called a dowry or a fortune that would make men want to marry them. For example, in Pride and Prejudice, Mr. Bennet calls this a way of bribing worthless young men into marrying his daughters, which he didn't do very well at because he didn't give his daughters much money. But a lot of young heiresses did have a lot to bring to the table, and they could raise the family income quite a bit through what they bring. Of course, Mr. Darcy doesn't do that. He marries Elizabeth despite the fact that she's poor. So in conclusion, how did Mr. Darcy get so rich? Well, he was born to the right family at the right time. But the Darcys in general got their money through 3 main ways, which is through 1, owning a lot of land, 2, 2, investments, and 3, marrying people with money, unless you're Darcy. Then you're like, whatever, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, I don't care that Elizabeth's poor, I'm gonna marry her anyway. And that's how he's so rich, and why they sit around drawing rooms all day long. And this has been another episode of Dashy Notes. I hope you've enjoyed listening to a modern day question about classic literature be answered. Check out my page for more videos on this topic and on Mr. Darcy because he is awesome.